where information never sleeps.
Welcome to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness, where, for the next 2 hours, Bridgette Dolgoff and Kelsey Sweet will be sharing their knowledge and understanding with their own beautifully unique twists on all topics related to helping humanity to achieve betterment of health in body and in mind. Settle yourselves down on this fine Saturday evening. For now, it is time for Bridgette and Kelsey.
All right, everybody. Yeah, so how is your week? I'm not sure Kelsey is going to make it back, but we'll just see how it rodeos out. So I might be talking the whole time. Anyway, so let's do the details. Hey, it's Bridgette Dolgoff. You're listening to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness. And yep, we're 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio B on Revolution Radio. That is our spot. All right. So also, all we do here at Revolution Radio, we all volunteer our time. Means nobody gets paid. Management doesn't get paid. The people that host shows, produce, all these different things, none of us get paid. So we just ask that you help us to keep the lights on. And that is sometimes a big nut. And so now we're back up on our website, what our monthly nut is and what the total is as it's coming down through the course of the month, so people know what our target is. And this is like servers and this, that, and the other thing and whatever else we need, and to keep all of our hosts rolling. All right, and 24/7 radio. That's big. That's a lot of work. So you can go to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you can click on the donation button. And now we have all the ways you can donate in one spot. I believe there's an ATM credit card one-time deal. We also have, at the bottom of the page, we have snail mail, who to make that check out to or that money order, where to send it. We also have Patreon. You sign up. You can kind of designate what you want to give us monthly. I think it can be as low as $5 a month. And what else? We also have, let me think. I think we also have some kind of pay box as well, because we had a lot of people that were interested who were international, and they needed a money drop box for that, so they can donate and help us. Also, do not forget, we've got a shop. And we have all kinds of cool, you can take whatever custom design you like of Revolution Radio or host, and you can put it on any shirt, any color you want. So make sure you do that to help support us as well. And so let's see, what else is going on? Let me think if there's anything else that I have to. Oh, and we don't have a back page up anymore because the website's changed. So you can find the radio show, Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness. I've got a page up on my website, so you can go to coe-llc.com. Scroll down on the right-hand side, and you can find that page. Look it up. It has all the information about the show, about Kelsey, about me, contact information, websites. social media, whatever else you possibly need. And yeah, so there you go. And Kelsey's personal website is kelseysweet.com. So yeah, so that is how things are rolling out. All right, so this week has been kind of an intense week. So it kind of figures that I would be on the show by myself. But I had all, 3 of my courses that I've been taking converged this week on top of seeing clients, and just a lot of stuff that's, kind of going on. So it's been kind of a super busy, intense week. So Tuesday night, I had my 5th class for my medical herbal fellowship. That's a 2-year program. In some months I have, 1 lecture, 1 set of notes, 1 test quizzy thingy, and then some months I have, like 5 or 6 of those classes. So I know May is a big one. I think I have like 4 or 5 classes that month in May. And then I just finished some osteopathic credentials. I wanted to upgrade my credentials. I hadn't upgraded anything in like 25 years. And so just really took an amazing course that started like back in August on just all kinds of just different stuff in osteopath. I mean, thing is, like, people don't really understand, I guess, maybe what osteopaths are or what they do. They're not so prevalent in the United States. If you were in another country, and I'm not a big socialist, but I do like countries that actually you have alternative preventative medicine, rocking it along Western medicine. And you could, go see an osteopath and it would be paid for with your insurance. And so there's a lot of things that osteopaths do, and there's a lot of interesting things. I consider myself a traditional osteopath because I didn't want to go to school to become a DO, because early on in my life, I was going to, I was heading down the MD and decided that I didn't really want to do that. I didn't actually ever want to be a doctor. I think they're criminals. The biggest criminals out there over judges and everybody else. So, yeah, so just worked with people, did amazing apprenticeships, learned just incredible things that are kind of mind-blowing. And I think that, if like we could dial in like a medicine that's matrixy or quantum, it has to be, osteopath. Especially people like me, traditional osteopath, where we like, look outside of the box. I mean, I've been at it like 30 some odd years structurally. And then, I do nutrition and herbal medicine and medical intuitive. So, like I toss it all kind of together. Also do biodynamic farming and soil regeneration, land regeneration, and all kind of fits together. Back in the day when I was going in these different directions of interest, I was like, I have no idea if these are ever going to go together. And they actually fit together like great puzzle pieces. So anyway, so an osteopath. Well, I'm just going to have to help define it kind of, I guess, based on my training. So I work on people structurally. And that can be a lot of different stuff. I do joint articulation. I do, I don't really do adjustments. That's kind of a chiropractic thing. I look at that as a forced method, and it can be dangerous, and it can also be painful. And it also, might not last that long, because if you have, lymphatics that are working against the bone, the lymphatics are going to pop it out, or the fascia, or, tissues, tendons and ligaments. So the bone isn't always going to stay in unless you work on all those different things. So structurally, I work on everything. I even took a course this year with the osteopathic stuff that I learned. A 3-day 18 credit. Yes, it was a big weekend. on 1,400 ligaments and also tendons, and actually how to maneuver them in a way where they actually will tighten themselves up. And it turns out if you have a lot of stress, your bones get really stressed out and the ligaments weaken. The strapping on all the ligaments will just weaken. So the brunt of the bone and the brunt of us having, high stress and fear and stuff like that is that the ligaments come loose. The roping, that tethers everything together just works itself loose because it's like the bones sort of vibrate. Kind of put it into that context. So, yeah, I do the tendons, the ligaments, the soft, tissues, organs. I do lymph nodes. I do corrections. I do manipulations. I move the bone. I move the joints. I rescue the synovial fluid sacs between all the joints. I think there's something like 400 joints in the body. And let's see, what else do I do? As far as the structure is concerned, I just have to think about this for a minute, because I usually when I'm working on somebody, I just dive in to wherever the largest lesion is. That's kind of like how we look at it, the part where the worst everything is, and then we slowly kind of put it back together and, like twisting a Rubik's Cube, I guess, so to speak, get all the colors lined up on each side until, it's completely restored. And so just work on lots of different stuff that has to do with those areas. And then also I do nutrition, obviously. I do herbal medicine to go along with it. I also do energy work. I do a lot of, energetic type work, several different types. Some is a seated, and where, we work on a lot of the emotional and mental stuff that's going on to kind of also help correct, all the stuff in the solid. And also we do work on a lot of emotional stuff. Sometimes as things, release, people have, memories. I also do an amazing technique that not very many people do, which is also part of the osteopathic training I had over the last year. And that is neuro-embryo release, which is way better than neuro-linguistic programming. Because, the thing is that this technique that I learned, I can go to 4 places in the body and release whatever needs to be released. And I don't need to actually reprogram it. So I don't need to bring it up in the memory field with like neuro-linguistic programming and then change, the feelings or memory about that memory. I don't have to do any of that. I can just wipe it out and the structure shifts. And then it's just stabilized and it's ready to go. And that's a kind of a really interesting technique because the 4 placements in the body that you go in, when you're working on a spot, and then you test the 4 different places to try to find out if it came in when you were a polywog developing, or what side of the brain that it came in as you were developing the brain in the fetus. And then the other area in the back of the neck actually has to do with as soon as we were born and walking. So I can take people all the way back through all that stuff by just hands-on tools of the area, and then going back to find out which of the 4 areas that it's locked into. So say, for example, I had a client who was having some problems with like his throat and neck, and also had some weird pelvis stuff going on. And it came in, when I started doing kind of the work on the top of his head, was like when he was a little fetus in a polywog. And it kept registering there. And so I said to him, so I mean, anything happen when you were early fetus, kind of like polywoggy, maybe had your clavicle, definitely had your spinal column, your brain, and he said, yeah, my mom was in a horrible car accident. She got ran over, and they almost didn't think like, I would survive, that it would miscarriage. So I was able to go in there and actually, because that trauma would have been, he would have had that for his whole life. And it wouldn't have been like neuro-linguistic programming. It wouldn't have been something that he would ever really remembered, because he knew the story that related to it, but he would have never brought that story up as an emotional problem that would be causing, things going on in his structure. So it developed with some of these issues. So that's kind of a really interesting thing. But I learned a lot this year with the amazing doctor I studied with. He's an MD and he's a DO, and he got his degrees in France. And so studied with him over the last year, and just mind-blowing stuff. And, he's always pushing us to move out kind of in a matrix quantum way, and changing the field and the energy of the body and the emotions and everything else with, the touch and moving things structurally, in the solid. So what else would I do? Well, I just finished a class that was just incredible. Actually, every time I think like, the class, this osteopathic upgrade credential isn't going to get any better, I'm just blown away. And so I'm just really also tired from the last couple of days, because I learned a technique that he developed that actually releases the bone marrow. And it actually turns out that after age 40, we don't really produce a lot of red blood cells and, a lot of new ones to regenerate bone. Like up until that point, as long as you don't have any real bad trauma in your bones, you'll, anywhere from, I think it's like 2 to 7 years or something like that, you can reconstruct a whole new set of bones. But if the brain doesn't have a relationship with that certain bone, it's not going to actually regenerate, and it's not going to redevelop itself. And then after 40, there's all these issues with the marrow and trying to produce that, because we've all been through a lot. We've fallen down, we've been in car accidents, we've given birth, we've had mental stress, emotional stress, and all this stuff compounds all the tissues and everything that kind of twist the bone up in a way where we're not manufacturing a ton of red blood cells, and our bones are not regenerating. So, learned a technique to actually unravel kind of and untwist the bone. And it's really amazing because during the class, I was kind of working on myself and releasing a lot of stuff. And then I got really tired. This was yesterday. And then after the class, I was kind of like, barely stand on my feet because I was kind of exhausted. And that was kind of interesting. All of a sudden, like that marrow and the red blood cells started to really kick in. And I felt like, like I could go for a run. And then I actually worked on somebody last night and did the bone marrow release of the big areas where we would have a lot of bone marrow. So mostly I just targeted the lower legs, the femur, the lower arms, and the upper part of the arm, and also the sternum plate. And they looked just totally warped after I got done with them, but they woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and they said that they just felt so good and so alive and so like not groggy, getting up and groggy and grouchy and having a hard time waking up. They just felt like super good and super alive. And so I was talking to my teacher today, and he was talking about how, this type of bone marrow releasing, mind you, this stuff is not being taught in the United States. It's not like part of regular curriculums, unfortunately. So, but he was saying that the bone marrow release, actually can do so much for people. It's like vitality. You can increase their vitality. You can give them vitality if they don't have it. And you can literally get rid of any kind of exhaustion, chronic fatigue, early onset of things, and get them really jamming. So I was pretty excited about that. And it was a super, super great day today. So how it works is when I do have the big courses, I have usually 3 long days of school online. And so I'm on the second day. Tomorrow's the third day. So you can imagine I'm a little bit tired while I'm trying to juggle everything. Plus I had the herbal medicine fellowship course on Tuesday, and then I also had my applied anthroposophy course on Thursday. So this week, all my courses kind of hit headlong. But I'm really excited. I think more than ever, really confident. And, I've always worked on babies and kids in my practice. I work on animals too. I work on horses. And I even studied with the guy who originally developed animal chiropractic, and it started with thoroughbred racehorses. And so I do all that stuff. I do animals. I've even done a ram that wasn't really friendly ram on a farm that I was interning on, who hurt his shoulder. And, it's kind of bad news for a 350-pound ram. He was only 3 years old. You never want anything bad to happen to the ram because he loves his lamb babies. Unlike any other father, in the wild, he loves to play with his babies. He likes to go jump off stuff and play with them and have a really great time. And so to see him, limping along and only being 3, because, usually you have to put animals down if they're not going to be rehabilitatable. And yeah, they let me. I said, let me work on him. They said, what do you need? Well, throw him up into the baby doll teddy bear position, and we'll check his hooves, and then we'll slap him down. We'll just roll him down before he realizes what's going on. And I'll just pop his shoulder in, and then I'll run out. We'll all run out as fast as possible. And it popped. It popped so loud that the sheep actually the ram looked at me. And then after that, he actually liked me. He didn't try to kill me. But if I was standing in his way by accident, he would give me a few minutes to get out of the way without charging me. But he definitely did appreciate it. So I work on animals, huge ones sometimes, and I work on small ones and babies and all of that. And I think a lot about something I think a lot about these days, maybe why I'm pursuing more and more information. And then also this weekend part of the course is also I'm learning a different kind of, we're moving away from cranial sacral therapies. And I'm learning, cranial impulse work, and just a whole other set of work that goes back to a man named Sutherland. So this doctor has actually went back and looked at this man's work and rehabilitated it and brought it back in to educate people like myself. So really spectacular, because it's so different than actual cranial sacral. And it's just incredible. Talk about matrix medicine for the matrix, or medicine for the quantum system, and it's totally that. But the other thing that is really amazing about some of the work that I've learned is over my years is that there are not very many of us in the United States that work on sexual abuse survivors. It takes a lot of work to get that, especially repetitive, to get the pelvic floor straightened out, to try to get the organs to straighten out, and try to get, people to release as much as they can of the damage and stress and fear and pain and, suffering. So whatever kind of quality of life that they can have, or whatever that is, the possibility of that is. So I think a lot about, 800,000 children go missing in the United States every year. And I think about what's going on now and how many of these children are, and, it's fact. I end up getting a lot of emails and also off to other social medias that people share with me, videos of these children being rescued, what some of these children look like, how many are making it out of the tunnels and the dungeons, and how many people are being arrested right now for human trafficking and pedophilia. And it's pretty epic. And so I think a lot about, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with all these children? A lot of them don't have probably families anymore, or maybe their families, wouldn't even recognize them. I guess there would have to be a huge amount of DNA testing with families that are missing kids, which could take years and years and years. Do they put them in orphanages for people to adopt, and how do we, rehabilitate them, and what do we do with the ones that may not ever be rehabilitatable? And so I think about that a lot. So sorry, I'm getting kind of misty-eyed, but I think a lot about that, and how do I do the kind of work that I do, being an anomaly in the United States with all the type of work that I've studied and with the people that I've studied with, like totally one of a kind, with just an amazing tool bag and amazing tools to be able to put myself in a situation where I could work on children full time that have been through the muck, and help them to structurally unravel, mentally unravel, emotionally unravel, physically unravel, and energetically unravel, and do the best that I can to give them whatever quality of life, like I said, that they're going to be able to have at whatever level that's going to be. And so I think about that a lot, and I have to do meditations on getting over like the emotional part of it. Like I visualize a lot, how to be strong, if I am able to be put in a situation where I can help out with the recovery work of kids, and getting over like, seeing them and seeing what's happened to them, and knowing, because, I've got my hands on their bodies, and being able to take that on and release it in whatever manner needs to be released. So there are days that I have to sit and, I think a lot about that as I'm trying to get prepared, and I'm trying to get stronger, so that way when I'm holding that child, I'm not going to have a breakdown, that I'm going to be weathered, and I'm going to be strong, and I'm going to be together 100%, so that I can help them in whatever way they need to be helped. So I think on some level, the type of work I pursue, a lot of the stuff that goes on drives me, drives me to sort out babies, when I see even regular babies that are, pretty healthy, but they've gone through the gamut of Western medicine hospitals, being born in the hospital and having a spine that, and they're just born, and having a spine of 40 or 50-year-old person that's done like hard labor, because they use things in the hospital to Pitocin, which increases the woman's, and this is stuff that's supposed to be used in an emergency. Anybody doesn't think that medicine is trying to kill you, they're totally trying to kill you. They're trying to like damage you at birth. But, they give this stuff into women's IVs, which should be only used as an emergency. Like if, you went way past your water breaking and you're not dilating and you really need to have this baby, then they can give it to you to, induce the labor stronger. But it's so strong that I was reading from a doctor who resigned his license because he refuses to use it on women after he did some studying about it. He said that it is like beating the baby in the head with a rock over and over and over because of the soft tissue and bones, and the mother's uterus is contracting so hard. It's just pounding the baby. So I get to see a lot of what Western medicine do. I encourage, everyone to find, like an amazing midwife, and have their babies at home, go through that whole situation, because it'll be so much more rewarding. And especially if you have had a lot of trauma, like the first couple times that you had a kid, So anyway, I think a lot about all the work that I do, why I do it, and I think people like myself that do the kind of work that we do and study with the kind of people that we study, we are the new medicine. We are the future medicine. I look at all my work. I had to rename kind of my work recently, and I call it quantum connective medicine, because that's what it's doing. It's connecting people back up to the field. Think about this. Like all these people like to really talk about how, everything has a torus field, right? The earth has a torus field, comes out the middle, up and around, up through the bottom and up through the top. And that, they found that every living thing has this torus field. Well, because of structural problems in your body and endocrine, which is going to cause endocrine problems, your torus field may not work on one side. So you might actually have a torus field speed wobble. And this is like what I notice when people have a lot of dizziness for no reason. They may have some like weird ear canal problems, maybe even some vision stuff goes with it. Thyroid kind of goes off. These are all like signs to me that your torus field is not really functioning on one side. So sometimes it can take, some structural work, some hormone balancing work, endocrine work, some nutrition, some herbal medicine, some lymphatic work, maybe bone marrow work, whatever it's going to be in order to get that other side back up in symmetry so that your torus field is operating perfectly balanced on both sides so that you're a whole unified being. And it's interesting because we all have all these two parts. And I tell people a lot about that, this isn't like a 3D world or a 4D world or a 5D world, that it's a 2D world because there's only two sides. And the way that our duality, we're in this duality, the seesaw, good, bad, saint, sinner, judge, jury, we're kind of stuck there. And so we have a torus field that has two sides. We have two brains. We have, for the most part, two arms, two legs. We have a lot of things that operate in the two. We have a spirit and a body. That's two. So it's all these different things that, and people kind of throw out there, the unified field, zero field, all these kinds of terms. But, a lot of it's kind of like a hypothetical until you're like somebody like me where you actually work on the structure that emanates energy and how that energy is managed, how that energy is restored, how that energy circulates. You know, I learned something yesterday that I didn't know. Now, if we go and we look in, like, say, a big femur bone and the way that the, like, porous part of it is, you can, look online and you can take a look at that. It's actually a grid. And it can be kind of, it's called a piezoelectric. So by me putting, like, my fingers on the person's leg, on the right part of the bone, and press gently, I create an electrical charge in that bone. So it's like our bones, our marrow bones, are like crystal structures that have electrical systems in them. Think about that. And that you can create a charge in that bone by pressing it. You get like kind of an electrical, kind of a spark. So you start to feel the energy kind of move around, spark. And then you're connected into that bone, touching it. And then you're moving that bone to try to figure out what the position of it really needs to be. How to get that electricity to be running up and down that whole bone, getting the lymph moved around it, getting the fascia that might be twisted up around it, getting all of these things, and then the ligaments and the tendons holding it just right, all these different things, and getting it into the right position so that it's literally energy's just going zhoo, zhoo, up and down that bone. I mean, it's not something they teach you in any kind of schools I've ever actually been in, especially with medical programs and even alternative medicine programs. Like, nobody talks about what we really are, including our physical body. And till we have something like that, there is no quantum medicine. Another thing too, I get really kind of bent out of shape. Early 2000s, I was working with people who knew and also worked with people who are developing machines, and also really starting to work with, was starting to kind of go out in the mainstream, a lot of these biofeedback machines and just all kinds of different stuff, all kinds of different machines. Ones that send out frequencies. People were dabbling with, healing like fractured bones and just, different kinds of health energies. And one of the people that I was really big involved in it, who's my business partner, he's also one of my clients, he ended up getting murdered in 2005 by the shrubs, because of the direction we were headed in together. He was putting the money package together, and I was developing the alternative medical centers where we would have all kinds of alternative medicine for just about any reason. We were going to have insurance. You could pay for insurance to come to our centers. So involved with a lot of that kind of stuff. One of the things, though, is that I could always outperform any machine as far as healing somebody and working on somebody. I was faster. I was multifaceted. I had diversified energy systems. And so I've never been like a big proponent of healing machines. And so I'm not a really big med bed person either. And so I get a little pissy about those kinds of topics. But what needs to happen, because people can so outperform once they understand how this stuff works, could so outperform any machine that's made. But we have to learn that we're better than any machine, including a med bed. Like, our potential in us and outside of us is unlimited. But we have to be taught that. And we have to be taught how the body works, how the energetic systems work with all the life forms on the planet. You know, how this all works together. I mean, I look at like a lot of this, you know, stuff people talk about coming as another separation between us and the planet. All these machines that offer some kind of healing are going to be in between you and you having to actually have a relationship with your food. You having to have relationships with other people. You having to have honest relationships with practitioners. People love to lie when they come in your office about all kinds of stuff, but you put your hands on them and you know exactly kind of like what's going on. But people can be developed and taught and trained to outperform machines and not allow machines and technology, like Rudolf Steiner talks about, as being a huge problem for the planet and for us. And learning and retraining people to actually do this type of work, to heal things that, you know, supposedly are unhealable, you know. So, yeah. So I don't want a machine taking over my job. Just like I don't like industrial or commercial farming with big machines. I like small farms that have a diversity. It's what's good for the soil. It's what's good for all the beings on that land. It's what's good for the animals. It's what's good for us. And so reconnecting and getting our relationship back with the outside, with the trees, with the soil, with the clouds, with the skies, and getting us off the technology. I mean, here they have technology that's killing us, and then they're going to give us more machine technology to heal us. That's crazy. I mean, I have people talking all the time they can't wait until they could do like Star Trek, you know, and that they could push a button for exactly what kind of food they want. And so, you know, like this 3D printed holographic food. And you know what I tell people is that that's transhumanism. Because you have to be either a computer to eat that holographic food and it actually do something for you, or if it's a 3D printed food, you have to be a machine or something in between, because that ain't human food, and that ain't what the human needs and what the human needs to operate with. And so we're like really kind of at this crux right now. And people want to be saved. I mean, that's always the thing, isn't it? They have religion, and they have these saviors, and then they have, you know, they want medicine, and they want these pills, and they want this vaccine saviors, like all these different people to save them. And instead of just doing the right thing by themselves and the planet and saving themselves. And you know, there's always this quote that stood out, because I had a grandmother. My grandmother was a prophet, a legitimate prophet, and an exorcist, and a healer in her own right. But because of our family on my mom's side was a little on the duty. You know, my great grandmother, she was a medicine woman, shaman that had unbelievable amounts of power. I've never actually seen anyone come close to her and her abilities and what she could do. So I grew up with her, and her daughter, my grandmother, ended up kind of being kind of the prophet and the exorcist and whatever, per-visual healer. My great-grandmother could just, you know, touch people and heal them, strike them down with like a lightning bolt kind of a deal. But she also had this command over nature and the planet, and a lot of her medicine abilities with that. But extremely powerful. And then my mom kind of had like an elfin energy. She was really good at growing things in nature, touching things. I remember when we were a kid out in the desert, she grew zucchini plants that were taller than people in sand. It's not an easy feat. Even with all my training, I still can't create a zucchini plant that's bigger than a person. And then just, the other women in my family, mostly women that were born into my family, all had abilities, incredibly clairvoyant. All of us had intense abilities. So my grandmother kind of hid in the church in order to protect us from, the outside world. So I grew up kind of in the duty and had to pretend to learn kind of how to be normal. I had to live kind of backwards. Oh, that's what normal looks like. Okay, next time I'll pretend to be like that so I don't get myself in trouble. But all the women in my family could have outperformed machines and did. So I think we have to be careful about where we're at with technology, and not rely on things. Like, do it. Go out and do it. Do it yourself. Grow a garden. Plant some seeds. Save seeds. Build a relationship with seeds. Get away from all this unnatural, unholy, if you want to call it, stuff. I mean, you think about Rudolf Steiner was talking about 100 years ago that there would be vaccines on the planet that would create soulless humans, and that you would be so soulless that you wouldn't have a drive, you wouldn't have the ability, and you wouldn't be able to actually raise your consciousness and evolve. And here we are. You have all these people, like thousands of people in lines waiting every day. It is like the craziest thing, because that's going to save you. Save you from what? Save you from death? Let me tell you, if you're going to die, you're going to die. But you might as well spend your time living while you have it, instead of worried about dying. Go for a hike in nature instead of waiting in line for a vaccine. That's my opinion anyway. And technology, I think there's like this, I remember, because, I did have to kind of study the Bible. Regrettably, no. But there are some, little tokens in there. Little tokens of wisdom. Like, I remember coming across this, section, the red section of the Bible, when it's supposed to be, Jesus talking, right? And I think it's like in Philippians or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But it said something like, continue to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And I was like, wow, if Jesus really said that, he's a shaman, because that's what shamans do. We work with the medicine, and we go in there and we work with terrifying stuff. Shifts of consciousness can be extremely terrifying, can drop you to your knees and almost kill you. And we work with that. We work with our fear and trembling, because we are saving ourselves. We are learning how to stand up against, what we see, what we hear, what we see, what we feel, and changing that in a really direct way. So we have a break coming up here in about 5 minutes. And I think Kelsey painted her unicorn, her giant real life-size horse, unicorn on wheels, solid gold. And she was wearing a little small sexy gold leotard, and she was going to be riding. I don't know how much of the sexy she was going to have, because it has been kind of pissing rain and kind of snowflakes out there. So, but I hope she's having a really good time. So anyway, let's, think about medicine. Let's think about, what we want and how that looks, and working with medicine that can take us into the quantum, right? Into the quantum system, into the development, into the modern age. The thing is like, I'm a big Steiner follower because he reminds me of a lot of the stories that and teachings and training and information that a lot of the medicine people, my native teachers that, I've studied with. And he doesn't really talk about any kind of ascension. And he doesn't really talk about a lot of stuff. He does talk about, Rudolf Steiner does talk about a bottlenecking that's going to be coming up. And that there's not going to be very many places on Earth where you're going to be able to grow anything, let alone food. This is one of the reasons that he left us the preparations that rehabilitate soil, regenerate soil. They're like the most unbelievable homeopathic remedies. And again, it's why I got involved with Steiner's work, was because of the preparations and the compost. It was for the first time that I really understood what alchemy was, and that it was possible simply. But these remedies can do astronomical things. I've seen them. I've worked with them. I've turned a desert into a jungle within a couple months, simply by using them. And they create neutral density soil. And I'll just toss out there, I was on this farm, so I was kind of a late bloomer. I just really needed to do something different. I had to get out of private practice for a while because, I was still kind of healing from the damage of the brain cancer, but I had cured the cancer, still had structural damage. And I just couldn't do, seeing 6 people a day, 6 days a week. Because I think that's seeing a lot of sick and people and pain and all this other stuff, it creates that. And I believe that it was part of the creation of the brain cancer. So I decided to go back to growing food, working with the land. And I actually wanted to grow my own herbs, to be an herbalist. I wanted to be in control of my own herbal medicine and make my own formulas. And it took me into permaculture. I studied a 2-week thing with some brilliant permaculture people, did some other permaculture stays, and then I got on this farm. And it was only a 10% biodynamic farm, but the guy making the compost, who was like nutty as all get out, this guy was wacko beyond belief. He showed me his compost that he'd been making, and literally it was like black humus coffee, and the smell of it and the moisture of it, you just wanted to rub it on yourself. And as soon as he opened it, man, the chickens just went wild. I mean, crazy. And it had gold fleck in it. It had all kinds of stuff in there that I'd seen, and I realized, that was when I first realized that alchemy was 100% real, and that I could develop medicine, homeopathic medicine, alchemical medicine, to cure soil, to cure water, to cure plants, to cure radiation, to cure heavy metals, to cure whatever the heck that I needed to cure, and to cure humans. I've even gone on and I've been working with, I need a laboratory and I need land. I wish some would just hurry up and come along. But I've been working on creating a homeopathic compost that's edible to humans, to restore all microbial malfunctions in the body and all sterility, to return them back 100% to their original form, and regenerating all their systems. Because I've also read about this kind of soil. Some of the people in Israel make this kind of dirt for homeopathic remedy. So anyway, eventually, maybe I'll have some for sale. People People can come to my land for all kinds of treatments, even come to eat dirt. All right, so I think we're getting ready. We're going to be on break here in just a couple seconds. And, yep, just hoping that Kelsey's having a really fun time. And the network player is saying it doesn't work, so I can't hear what's going on. Well, let me just get in here and see if I can, see if I can find it listening so we can get it. So on the second hour, we're going to have my friend Par from Sweden. It's like middle of the night there. And there we go. See you in about 5. I'm a terrible singer. Anyway, we're trying to sow the seeds of love with truth. I don't know. I look at truth as love, even though truth maybe wouldn't show up as love. I don't really like the word love. I like other words like good forces, truth, honesty. I think those are good words that replace love. So sowing the seeds of truth here at Revolution Radio. All right, so let's do the deed. The deed is, hey, you're listening to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness. I'm your host, Bridgette Dolgoff, and my co-host, Kelsey Sweet, is out riding a golden full-size unicorn being rolled down a road in a skimpy little golden tight. I hope she's having fun. She may be microdosing too. Who knows? Probably why she missed the show. So I'm hoping she's having a lot of fun. Yep. So, and our show is on Saturdays in Studio B at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at Revolution Radio. If you go to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you click on the donation, we've got all of our ways that you can help us out all on one page. Please go there and check it out and see, what works for you. Because we do have an overhead every month. And like I said before, none of us get paid. We all volunteer our time. We just ask that you help us to keep the lights on. I mean, there isn't any other freedom radio out there anymore. Everything, is being taken down. And we're standing. We're still standing because we have some amazing people that help us to keep our websites going, to keep our players going, to keep, our studios going, keep everything going. So we're fighting and we're going to stay there. And we're non-corporatized radio. So please support us. Please support us. Appreciate it very much. Also, if you want to find out more information about the show, about me or Kelsey, you can go to my website, coe-llc.com. coe-llc.com. And you can scroll down and find the page that goes along with the show, Carrying Stones and Digging Holes to Cultivate Consciousness, and all the information's on there. And then, and if you need a session, you need to get worked on. In the past, when I had a busy practice, I even had people that would come to Reno and stay for a couple of weeks, and I'd work on them several times. They'd have to book it 3 months in advance. Back in those days, I was booked 3 months in advance. I'm so glad I'm not in that shape. But, if people want to come to Reno and get a hotel and make appointments and get worked on, would love to see you, would love to help you. Would love that. All right, so for the second hour, I dragged my friend Par from Sweden on. You're muted, Par.
Well, I know that, but you instructed me, so I'm a good little boy doing what you tell me. I should be less good. I know about. But well, hey there, and thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, well, it's really late where you're at. I'm surprised that you're still up.
Well, we have daylight saving hours 1 week later, it seems, than America. So I had no clue. I tried to help Fetcher in some preparations, and I actually bugged him the whole first hour. I was thinking like he'll go on for an hour from now, and he was already doing radio. So it's like last time I was on, it was 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., but now your show started 1 a.m. That's almost like, well, nothing. So
That's like nothing.
Yeah, well, well, at least for me, I could just say, well, tell you a little bit about my week. I have been so exhausted. So every day I come from the shop. I run a small business, and I usually spend like 10 hours a day minimum for my company. So I have started to turn like, well, when I come home, that's the first moment I seek out the bed and I take kind of really large power naps. And I've done it for almost a week. So today, imagine Saturday, the shop closed 6 p.m. So I was home quite early and could take this really nice power nap. I took it for 3 hours. So I'm kind of rested, and I've done too little of exercise lately. So that's really bad. And going for a short tour to the shop, having something. Shops in Norway is actually closed Sundays. So like Germany, I think Germany has this system too. But so they still honor the kind of sacred or the day to rest on. So the most shops are actually closed. And coming out, I found a very refreshing, brisk wind blowing around here, and the clouds were gone, and clear, nice skies. Growing moon, that's gibbon, or I don't know. I'm quite lousy in the English terminology. So it's almost on half. I saw the moon like beautifully out up on the sky, and I decided for a walk coming home from the shop. So I made a very nice walk. So now I feel almost like totally fresh.
Almost fresh?
Well, refreshed for starters.
Good. Well, that's good. I'm not sure that 3-hour nap is considered a power nap. I think the power nap is like a 20-minute nap.
Shh. No, not so. Okay, I get it. Well, so that was a really large power nap, or a very powerful nap, or a nap or something. Anyways, I was listening into the first hour, and it's quite interesting. So,
you have any thoughts about it?
Sure. Actually, I did get moments from here and there, and I did some other things in between. So, but some other things, because you were talking about you as a practitioner and healing arts and the things. So in the end, you had about all this about the machines, and as in the interview on Dennis Fetcher's show, you mentioned for the caller in Lonnie that, well, really machines are interesting, but you're like a powerful machine. You will beat these technical machines because your biological machinery is awesome. And you went about it in a quite interesting way already. Then I heard you took a kind of replay on that message, and it's kind of very interesting. And also you talked about not neuro-linguistic programming support, but embryonic or something, and that kind of led my thinking to my own experience in life. Anytime, because you're clearly, I really can admire your mental or spiritual or the psychic world knowledge inside you and your experience. And I'm as a man, I'm clearly left-centered, brain-oriented, intellectual thinking, learning, all these other things. But actually in music, I can take the other side of the brain power of the right hemisphere and the creation. I love to create, so I have some sort of little balance in taking resources from both sides of the brain. But I clearly can admire your vast experience and insights into these areas. In my life, I've stumbled across some moments, and it comes kind of the dream sequences. I have only normal dreams. I cannot do this magical walking around in dreams too consciously. Normally, I will just follow the flow of the dream. But sometimes dreams will lead me into like psychological meta processing of myself and my mental space in clever imagery of the dreams. And sometimes coming into like tunnels or doorways or inside house, and it could at times become like, well, I try to find a way back. It's impossible, and I will find some other solution presented, and it would feel like a really narrow portal to exit out and get out to the free area outside. And in those instances, some dreams many years ago I tried to like squeeze me through, but nowadays I will just bluntly stop in the dream, or I will force myself to wake up, or I'll find another solution. And in awake state, I can clearly connect like, well, this is almost as I will imagine the sequence of being born from my mother. That could be kind of associations. So that would kind of be embryonic or on the way and into the delivery out here in this magnificent world. There is this stage of passing. And mentally I tried to process it for some years, or like mentally handle it, and then I would find myself in like, imagine if I now was in the womb of my mommy, in her belly, and to pass to take this journey and passage, and the intellectual side of it can clearly not process it. It will flee into panic immediately, and then from long time processing and thinking about it, it clearly could initiate the senses of like fear or panic, or this very strong unpleasant feelings. And from doing some kind of mental work with myself, I come to realize like, well, why think about it like that? In the real case, when I was in the womb and in the belly of my mommy, and then partook in the delivery, I was just natural. And the mental state I'm trying to apply now is totally artificial or not applicable to this situation. So I could release myself from like, you're trying to do something unnatural, go to the natural situation. The natural situation will have its own process. It's all natural, and you cannot really try to imagine it or intellectualize it and so on. So that's things that other situations where these kind of like mental hysteria arises inside me, I can start to fast track and say like, I'm trying to mentally process something that's not clearly a good way to deal with it. I should just relax and see the natural resources better connected to it. Like our super subconscious awareness is always present to take care of the most critical any situation that could arise, to protect me in the absolute uttermost best way, and to rely on that and align myself with, that's kind of a comfort, it's kind of a insurance, it's kind of the reliance on the natural way that nature will provide and protect for me. So, well, I don't know if you feel that connects to what you were talking. This is a little story, at least you gave me the space to lay it out here, and you'll try to see if there's anything. We'll talk together about it, or you'll just go on or lead us on forward.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So you want to do something kind of fun?
Well, last time you did something really fun. That
Like
paper,
what?
I saved it a long time. It was so actually inspiring, that little mental framework with the paper folded in three, and
Oh
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
sort.
yeah. That was pretty fun, huh? When you were on the show, we did that. The trifold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do something else.
Okay.
All right. So, how about this? I'm going to work on you energetically.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just like long distance work through something. How's that sound?
Oh, yeah.
For fun.
Why not?
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of take in a couple deep breaths, and then I'm just going to kind of tap in and just kind of see what's going on. Okay. So let me just kind of get some stuff here. All right. So the first thing that I'm noticing is that I'm looking at you and I'm looking at your energetic field. And the first thing that I'm noticing is that there's some stuff going on kind of behind you and behind your shoulder on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. So I can see kind of some darker material, kind of like not floating, but it's kind of like in the space. And so I also, what I'm doing is I'm actually looking at it, and it seems to be kind of going into like the back of your humerus bone, like on your right arm. And it seems like to me it kind of runs down.
Is that kind of the shoulder section, humerus bone?
Yeah, where the bone connects up into the shoulder.
Yeah,
And
great.
then I can just see kind of like it also kind of runs down into like the physical a little bit down that arm. So let's take a look at what's going on there. It's in the left side. So left side is always feminine. In shamanism, we call it left side awareness. It's where like the perceived awareness, like how we sense things. It's where a lot of that information comes in through us through the left side. And so also too, it deals with sometimes a lot of like, can deal with guilt, especially in that area right there with the shoulder and the humerus. It can deal with shame, old information, old shame. But there's also a little bit of like some disappointment that kind of feels like that's coming through. And then also a little bit of like, not so much frustration, but kind of like, kind of feels like you have to keep doing things over and over again, and they're not changing a whole lot. So there's also this like really internal emotional workings that's going on.
Like hesitation also, or?
No, just kind of where you just keep doing things, but they're not, bearing fruit. It doesn't seem like things are moving forward, kind of a thing. Maybe like, that kind of a feeling as well, along with the disappointment and stuff like that. So anyway, I think we should like kind of work on clearing that area. So have you had anything going on in that left shoulder area or down your arm?
I have some other small details I'd like to add onto the picture, into the picture, but
sure.
Yeah, well, I'd had a trauma in old age, and I had another trauma in young age. And in the old age, it hampered my right shoulder. I'm imagining you are viewing me. That's why you changed from the right shoulder or right side to the left. So I should feel the center inside me is the left, right? So I'm imagining that's how you talk. So in the left side, I'm sure there are skeletal and joints and muscular impairment or unjust alignment that will kind of hinder me somewhat. It's a long time since I did physical activity, and my body loves physical activity. But and your description of those situations or character that you pinpointed is kind of an image of my life where I too much lived for others, and that kind of saved myself for the last. And I'm mentally trying to reorient myself, like more space for me, or to do or grow or bring things to or from or for me. So that kind of. In other, I had some kind of nice therapists, Shuyuk, the South Korean style. She called herself an intuitive therapist. And I started to notice, because I'm clearly too thinking oriented, so I could, and it would come to what you talk about, kind of the shoulder or the neck on my left side was kind of the feeling of stiffness, and or kind of a barrier in the neck or down to the left side of the shoulder. And maybe it was kind of, I started to realize maybe it was kind of the heart, character, emotions, or intelligence tried or had a blockage to connect or to align with the thinking or mental process. So I'll stop at that because I took some time now to just talk a little bit on different things, so you can continue here. There is something going on.
Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to actually take a look at what's going on in there.
Okay.
And then we'll just see what the further information and instructions may be.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and take a look. And one of the things that I am seeing is that there is there's actually a couple things that are going on. Mm-hmm. It looks like there is somebody that's there. It's a woman. She's showing me herself. You didn't know her in this life. You didn't know her in another life either, but she has come to help you. Okay. Push you, she says. Okay. She's been pushing you to do to like kind of reconnect with things. So I'm going to say that she's probably a grandmother from some type of your ancestry who actually has been coming to try to help you and work with you, and has been a little bit pushy.
She has been, or she tries to be, or what's the pushy part?
Well, I think it's, making you want to go out and, do some of the side work that you're doing out in nature. So I think she's the one that actually is the one that's pushy about you going out and doing these investigations. That's what it seems like to me.
Okay. Because it's my hobby to my only free day is Sundays, and that's my time to go out in nature, kind of, because all daylight hours I will be inside a shopping center. Sorry, go on. This is interesting. I have a question later, but I'll
okay.
Wait for it.
So she's just saying that she's there, that she's helping, but sometimes she may have a tendency to push you so hard that it can cause some structural problems, like in the arm and shoulder. So, and she's also talking about that some of the damage that's there doesn't have anything to do with her, and it has to do with being grabbed. So what they're showing me is that the humerus part of your arm when you were little was grabbed by somebody aggressively. Yeah, and like you were lifted up by that arm and pulled.
Okay. I have, from careful thinking and investigation, I have approximately in the 10 years, when I was around 10 years, I visited my cousins, and there was a sequence when we went scooter out in the fjell, or mountains, as you would say in English, but fjell is the mountain terminology for the Scandinavian mountain ranges. And he was kind of my cousin's uncle or something. He overdid, so he tried to make a very big jump on a snow pile, and it compressed my back for a really bad. I had like my lower back would flip in or flip back, or that I clearly had super pain in my back after it. I think I have a muscular kind of binding together in that position. But that's not the shoulder, so there could be more. So but that's one trauma that has, or trauma means injury or damage. So that's I'm sorry, you can just go on.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, it doesn't. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but I think that somebody had actually grabbed you.
Yeah. Okay.
When you were young,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that kind of, well, it kind of just put a lot of different kind of emotional stuff in it, and I don't think that there was like a big discussion around it either. So there's like not really sure like what happened or why it was done or what was going on or what happened. So there's also this mark of shock, I think, a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
which makes you kind of still, I think this day have a tendency to kind of, well, it's one of the things that kind of causes you to walk on eggshells.
Yeah, safeguarding kind of.
Yeah, especially with people who might have an explosive personality.
Because I've dragged myself to kind of narcissistic woman in life. Like my ex-wife, I have 2 children with, and now she has, well, we have not had communication for 20 years, and my daughter, 20 years old, I didn't see her for 10 years and so on. But she was narcissistic. My mother is very narcissistic, or too eagerly self-centered. And I made myself like buy the ticket of be mommy's little good boy, and I just transported it out to trying to be grown up and bring a woman to myself very late in life, and these were the kind of woman like finding the too eagerly give away resources from himself to the woman first, and waiting for his chance a little bit later, and never came because I invited like the flies to the honey pot, and I did it myself kind of. So I can sense what you do or talk about. That's interesting.
Okay, so yeah, so there's a little bit of explosive personality and information that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and I'm just going to kind of work in there and see if we can get it. Let's go ahead and just go in there and kind of see what we can kind of get, shifted a little bit. I don't know with, hold on one second. Let me just take care of this. Kelsey is reporting in. She's saying that, I'll just tell people this real quick before we'll finish.
What are you all doing? What's going on?
No, she said she had to make an emergency stop for the unicorn because the wind was blowing so hard. It was like in the back of the truck she borrowed because it's like a full-size, horse looking thing on wheels. It says the wind was blowing the thing sideways, couldn't take the freeway home. Then she says, been sitting outside in the snow all day, effing over it. So she's cranky and grouchy. So she's not going to make it for the rest of the show, which is, perfectly fine. We're good. Okay. So I'm going to go into, I just had to get that cleared up real quick.
Yeah, great. How do you spell that bone? I have to check it. It's like Latin for Humerous or something. Humerus?
Yeah, the humerus. The upper part of the arm bone.
Is that a joke? Are you humorous or?
No, it's not a joke.
It's kind of funny,
No.
Well, it's not funny because someone grabbed me there. So, and how do you do these things? I will not ask you, because if anyone asks me how I play piano or create music, I will just say, well, you just connect with the feeling and you go with the flow. So I'll respect it for that.
Okay, so we're just going to kind of go in there and just see what we can actually clear out of the situation. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to take a look. And so one of the things that they're talking about is that I don't know how important this is, but you have a problem defending yourself.
Sure.
So there's for some reason you emotionally can't actually, defend yourself against somebody else. Like you will either get hit or screamed at or whatever else, and you like take the lumps, and you don't ever really fight back.
I will be the after sensible, or like 2-3 days after the picture clears, and I can see the connections or the situation. I can find the honor or the inner standing in what was going on, but I will not be very pushy or fighting cock or like make a big fuss in the moment, because I will not be very clear to attack. But I can be very intellectual instead. I can be I love the first hour show when you said people come to my office and they love to lie a bunch just to make it sound good, you know. That's kind of hilarious. But yeah, now I lost my track here. So
that's okay. Well, anyway, one of the things that's important is that you defend yourself energetically, because I think that whatever is going on in the left arm, which we're gonna deal with, you need to be able to raise your arms, even if you're not going to punch somebody out, even if you're not going to like scream back at them, but you need to like energetically create a barrier between them. You know what I mean? Even if you were to put your hands up in front of you and scream no and just walk away.
Sure.
You know, like you could just totally do it.
Figuratively, the hampered physical place or position is a kind of mentally or spiritually talking. That's what you're doing. You're clever. Go on. I know that beforehand. Okay, go on.
Right. So I think that you end up taking on a whole bunch of stuff from other people because you don't have a barrier of defense, even if it's just an energetic one. Even if you just put your arm up and you just said no, like I'm not going to be into this. But I think what happens is that it kind of goes in, and it kind of goes into like an old wound, that's been going on in that left arm for a really long time. And I think that you end up kind of taking the position of, and I don't want you to take this personally, but I think that you end up taking the position of a woman, like an abused woman.
Well, since I had like dominant woman, and that's the tragedy of the West world. Like they mock or fool our woman into trying to be so power oriented or dominant.
No, but I'm talking about you right now, that you ended up taking it kind of like
I would do that kind of, well, sure, you should be nice, you should take it or be considerate or I'll let it run off me or something. I'll take it.
Right, but I don't think it's running off you.
Well, sure, I get it.
Right, so it's like kind of getting stuck into your body, into this kind of energy field that's kind of sitting behind you, kind of on your shoulder, and then running down your arm.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you some things, some tips here, because I mean, you don't have to be screaming and beating people up to actually, make a stand. You can just put your hands up in front of your face and just say no and walk off. There's a lot of other things that you could actually do to defend yourself a little bit, so that you're not taking on other people's stuff, right? Because being the nice person and trying to be the bigger person in the situation doesn't mean that you're not taking on other people's abuse energetically.
Sure, I get it.
Okay, so now we're gonna go in and we're gonna see if we can kind of actually start releasing some of it.
And my guardian grandmother, she will step aside and leave me space, or she's there?
Well, she's not really in that part of it. She's just letting me know that she's there, and she's the one that likes to push you around a little bit. But a lot of it has to do with, I think, more, getting out in nature, more ancestry kind of, I think it's like, those moments where you're just sitting there and you're trying to get stuff done, and there's something in the back of your mind going, get up, get up, get up, come on, let's go. Get up, get up, get up, come on, let's go. Let's get out the door. That's her. That's her trying to get you to get the work done.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's work on,
Mm-hmm.
let me just work on all this energetic stuff here really quick. So also, one last thing that they want to talk about before we release a lot of this dark energy is that sometimes being that woman energy, defenseless, abused, people can kind of sense that kind of energy. It's not a good energy to have in business. People don't like to, go to businesses or, deal with people who are weak.
Sure.
And if they do, they just want to take advantage. They get attracted to that kind of energy to take advantage.
Sure.
So with your business, it'd be really good for you to get a little more, not defensive, but more kind of empowered. You know what I mean? I think it would help you to attract better clientele, which means that you would struggle less.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just kind of wanting to put that out there a little bit, because I think that it kind of is leaking into a lot of aspects of your life. And let's see. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get it going here. All right. Oh, I'm going to move out some of this stuff, and hold on a second. I've just got to get it cleaned out and away from you, and then I can kind of get it transported somewhere else. Let me get through there. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to balance it out. I'm going to kind of balance both sides of you out a little bit here. Because it's you've got this male side, and then you've got this female side. This female side of you is playing out just kind of in an abused kind of way.
To accepting.
Yeah, but it's interesting because your male side isn't actually standing up to try to help your female side. Yeah. It's almost like it's resigned to whatever happens, right? So let's just see if we can
that would encourage me to start to think about, let's plan, or let's put out the direction for somewhere to go, and it will be my conscious selection, and start to work with it, like create it or get it done.
Well, and that's a very male thing, a very male thing is getting it done.
Well, yeah.
Get her done. That's what they say here in the U.S. Get her done.
Okay, I'll get her done.
Get her done.
Yeah, I'll do that. Why not?
All right. So let's see the male side. So I kind of see some depression here. So let me see if I can kind of lift some of that. Here in the male side, just depression. So this might be why you're not being very successful with being able to get her done, is because you kind of have this resignation, not enough energy and just a lot of depression.
I better kick that thing in the butt, right? So
I think it'll help you. Well, and the other thing too that keeps coming, over and over in waves here is that there's all this kind of woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff that should have happened, that could have happened. But I think the thing you have to face is that it didn't happen, and that it's time to just,
grab what's out there.
Get yourself together and just start something new. But sometimes that takes a lot of, it takes a lot of emotional effort. to let go of the old and, grab onto the new.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let me see if I can get the male side here kind of stabilized a little bit. I'm going to kind of like sweep off a little bit of this kind of depression that's kind of weighting you down a little bit and like get it moved. I'm just going to move it over. And let me see what else we have going on. So the other thing too is one of the things that the energy field is talking about is that how do you not know that the future could be better than anything that you've ever had in your whole life?
Mm-hmm. Because, well, that's kind of the future is what you carry on the shoulder, but you have to choose what you carry to be
No, but
satisfied.
you're not carrying the future. You're carrying depression and the past.
Well, sure, but if I should go onto the future, it will be carried on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wisdom of the words of shoulder up or something, right?
Yeah, well, we want it to definitely replace depression.
Well, sure.
I think shoulder up into the future.
If I would carry depression for the future, I would know my destiny, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be so great in the future. You just recreate the same thing over again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, I can honor that. I mean.
Yeah, and I think that, like the energy in the future, if you can just get yourself aligned with it, I think in a positive way, like you could really build something amazing for yourself and actually really feel vibrant. Like there's a lot of vibrant energy that I feel in the not too distant future, but just trying to get you turned in that direction, so that you can start moving towards it until you can see it and maybe even feel it. Because, seeing and feeling it is going to come later. Sometimes I tell people you have to fake it till you make it.
That sounds so American. I can't believe it. Or like Dennis Fetcher, I met him in Jordan. He's like, or some others, if they're talking to me, they would kind of like, try to be more assertive. Well, the American way is kind of very contrary to Scandinavian psyche. So it's something definitely is well, watch Sweden against USA in a hockey match. And if America has the edge on the psychology, they will clearly smash the Swedish team. But if Sweden will like rest in kind of comfort and their own style and don't get affected, they will beat the Americans like shit.
Mm-hmm.
So
but this is the deal is like, dude, you come from Viking blood. Mm-hmm. That's not a passive.
Well, kind of.
That's not a passive people.
Kind of.
It's like, would you guys get trained to be more passive as the?
Well, for 1,000 years, they broke the neck of the Viking spirit. They worked really hard on it. I hate it, and I actually in late age, I grew my hair long and my beard and everything to try to find where's the spirit and where's the ancestry in me. How does it look? What is nature? What is my nature? And that kind of attracts me. Well.
Okay, well then you guys got to get this more. Stand up kind of Viking energy going here instead of the passive Swede energy.
I start to like this. Go on.
Well, you just got to get better at defending yourself. It doesn't have to be aggressive, but you need to like back off some of the stuff that you participate in because it's taking up all your time and you don't have enough time and energy to go in the direction of the future. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you got a little more Viking going where you're like, that's enough, I'm no longer participating in that, and then about face and go towards what you want to go towards.
Or where is my ship? And I'll take up the secret Viking tool. It's a little stone, and they could face it towards the sun, even behind the clouds, and see where it was. And they made their own point of compass in a scratching of wood, and they could navigate the seas of the world like nothing.
Okay, well, I mean, then you should be really good at being able to just step towards your future.
Well, I should. I'll put this image
It
in
seems like
the
it would be
frame.
effortless compared to, like, navigating the seas.
Mhm.
Okay, so anyway,
Yeah.
let me just kind of like finish getting this energetic stuff done, because we've only got about 7 minutes left, but
Sure.
in this hour, but I
I'll
just
try
want to
to-
actually finish this up. But yeah, I do see a lot of, once you get on the path and you get in the direction and you get her done, I see a lot of, like, seriously, like, vitality. I think that you energetically would just feel a lot better, and you just would feel like, creating something new and just thriving in that feeling, building something new. So hold on a second. Let me just kind of get that going. But you may not see it or feel it for a while once you get on that path, and don't get disappointed, okay? Just stay with it. Don't get down on it, because it's there. You've got to walk far enough along in order to connect with it, because it's down the road. So let's see. So let me just kind of straighten this out. And okay, I think that's pretty good. So I'm just going to leave you there, and then we'll just see what happens. You'll just have to drop me Skype messages and let me know how things are going.
Sure, I will. That's fascinating, actually.
Yeah,
I'll have to park the Viking ship, right? You talked about the road, so I'll get a bicycle or something.
Yeah, you need like a horse or something, like, right down your path.
Yeah, of course.
Might have to take a horse.
Mm-hmm.
But I did release. I removed kind of quite a bit, and I kind of backed it off from you, a lot of heaviness and depression. So hopefully it will be enough in order for you to kind of, turn things around a little bit.
Sure, and I can feel inside the shoulder up to the, well, I think I can feel the part of the bones you're talking about, and the joint between it and the kind of blockage. I think it's identified.
Oh, good. Yeah. So anyway, just work with all that and just see what happens.
Wow. Nice, interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll remember that left arm and raise it and say, no, I'm sorry. Just forget.
No, you don't say I'm sorry. You say, no, I'm not participating, and turn around and go in another direction.
Well, see how you got me there. I'll get it done. That's more.
You'll get her done.
Get her done. And this grandmother ancestry is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, she's kind of an interesting lady.
Because my mother has a sense of, like the one pointed out as my father's father might not be, because she said, like, well, clearly when my mom and my dad, they were together and she met the father, she felt like they don't really look like each other at all. And I can see in my current generation of siblings, the same situation like that is present, but there is like the open secret that the two parents, that actually is not a parent to a boy, they kind of play the game about it. Like, well, sure, I'm that's the dad, but in secret, it's kind of admitted in small words, and we around, we can see, like, well, this boy has nothing from our family or our relations. It's so obvious, it's like funny. Well, sure thing. So I'm kind of thinking about who really was my father's father. That's kind of an interesting mystery thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes there's keepers. There's like ancient spirit keepers of areas, you know, that have information. A lot of my native teachers call them the grandmothers and the grandfathers, and they're, you know, they're information keepers. And
me,
they keep the
dialect,
balance of things too.
because dialect sometimes is like a grander spirit, because a region, the way they talk is kind of a character or a soul or a spirit in itself.
Yeah, I do believe that. Yeah, I think you can heal or kill with a sound, for sure. I think that there's, you know, the sounds create, I think, everything, the vibration. I mean, it's interesting, you know, we even have 3 minutes, but just, you know, learning in this last course here, this osteopathic course about the piezoelectric system in the bone, you know, the porous part of the bone, and that it is kind of like, you know, a power center or a power grid, like just the way that it's designed, and being able to create charges in the bone, and that, you know, getting the energy really good in the bone so that it's actually going up and down the bone, because the bone is sitting right. It's untethered from a lot of the tissues that it's been struggling with that have, you know, got it stuck, so that, you know, it can start really producing a lot better quality, you know, bone marrow and red cell production. And you think about this, I mean, in our cells, they have a positive and negative charge. You know, so it's interesting. So they're developed from this bone, and this bone is like an electrical grid, right? That little power generator unit, like a circuit board. That's what the bone marrow and stuff, you know, my teacher was talking about today, about, you know, what it looks like is that the porous part of the marrow and all of that is a type of crystalline, you know, bone. I mean, think about it. There's all those minerals and things in there. Of course, that would be a crystal structure, or, you know, that could be used for an electrical grid, but it being, you know, like a circuit board in there. I mean, I just think it's like so amazing. And what's even more amazing is like when I connect now with a bone or someone's bone, I see it in a whole different way. I look at it as like, are you operating, you know, at full electrical output? And if you're not, then how do I get you, you know, where do you need to be? Like, where is the right and perfect place for you to be? And how, you know, am I going to get you there? And just working with the bone until, you know, I've got it just, you know, at full capacity. And this is a really interesting thing. One of the students today, he was talking about his son is like 8 and he plays soccer, and he got kicked in the shin bone in a game, and literally he couldn't even stand on the leg. And so he started doing some of this work, this bone marrow work on the leg and the lower leg. And he said within 15 minutes, not only was he back on his feet, but he had more strength, and he was stronger and faster than he was before, and had no pain. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Sure.
So, but anyway, hey, Par, thanks for coming on. It's Par from Sweden. And I've been Bridgette Dolgoff, and this is the end of our second hour of carrying stones and digging holes to cultivate consciousness here on Revolution Radio. We're here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio B. And thanks, everybody, so much for listening. And I will see you for sure next week, and hopefully we'll have Kelsey with us then as well, too. All right, everybody, have a great week.